The boardroom was silent as Mark took his seat at the head of the table. He couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had been creeping up on him since he'd received the call from the CFO earlier that morning. It wasn't that the news was unexpected. He'd known for months that the company was bleeding money, but the reality of the situation was finally hitting home. As the meeting began, Mark felt a heavy weight settle in his chest. The numbers were grim, and it was clear that some tough decisions would need to be made. He listened as the heads of each department reported their progress, trying to find a glimmer of hope among the dire forecasts. But as the meeting wore on, the weight in Mark's chest only grew heavier. He knew what he had to do. He'd seen it before in the business world, but that didn't make it any easier. He would need to lay off employees, cut salaries, and drastically reduce the company's overhead. Mark had never felt so alone in his life. As the CEO, the ultimate responsibility for the company's fate rested squarely on his shoulders. He knew that his decisions would impact not just the employees, but their families as well. How could he make these kinds of decisions and still live with himself? It was then that he remembered the video he'd watched the night before. In it, Ben Horowitz, a successful entrepreneur and CEO, talked about the struggles of being a leader and the lessons he'd learned along the way. Mark replayed the video in his head, hoping to find some guidance in the midst of his turmoil. He thought back to Horowitz's advice on firing people and minimizing ill feelings. It was a tough pill to swallow, but he knew it was the right thing to do for the survival of the company. And Horowitz's words about hiring people with a few weaknesses gave Mark hope. Maybe he didn't need a team of perfect employees to turn the company around. Finally, as the meeting drew to a close, Mark steeled himself for the difficult days ahead. He knew that he had what it takes to be a wartime CEO, to make the tough decisions and lead his company through the storm. And maybe, just maybe, he could become a great CEO like Ben Horowitz someday. Chapter 1. Jenny had always dreamed of being a CEO. She had a passion for entrepreneurship and a vision for creating something truly unique and impactful. So when she founded her own company, she was overjoyed. But as the company grew, so did the pressures and responsibilities that came with it. Jenny soon found herself facing the harsh realities of running a business, and she quickly realized that her dreams of smooth sailing were just that, dreams. It started with a financial crisis that threatened to sink the company before it even had a chance to take off. Investors pulled out left and right, leaving Jenny scrambling to keep the company afloat. And just when she thought things couldn't get any worse, her best customer went bankrupt, taking a significant chunk of the company's revenue with it. Jenny was in over her head. She was faced with impossible decisions, and the weight of the struggle was beginning to take its toll. She couldn't sleep, she couldn't eat, and her relationships with her friends and family were suffering. But Jenny was determined to see the company through. She knew that greatness could arise from the struggle, and she refused to give up. She sought advice from other CEOs who had faced similar challenges, and she learned from their mistakes and successes. As the company slowly began to recover, Jenny's perseverance and determination paid off. Her decisions and leadership had turned the company around, and it was now thriving. She had faced the struggle head-on and had come out on the other side stronger and wiser. Jenny realized that being a CEO wasn't just about building something beautiful and world-changing. It was about facing the inevitable crises and challenges that come with running a business. But she also knew that it was in those moments of adversity that true greatness was forged. Chapter 2. Samantha had always dreamt of being a CEO, but she never realized the struggles that came with it. The pressure of running a successful company was weighing on her, and she felt like she was drowning. The struggle was real, and it was taking a toll on her mental and physical health. She was on the verge of giving up when a mentor gave her some valuable advice. "Remember, you don't have to face the struggle alone," the mentor said. "Involve as many people as possible when facing a crisis. Together, you can overcome any obstacle." Samantha took the advice to heart and called an emergency meeting with her team. She shared her concerns and asked for their input on how to handle the current crisis. The team brainstormed and came up with a creative solution that turned the tide in their favor. But the struggle didn't stop there. The pressure continued to mount, and Samantha found herself feeling trapped with no way out. That's when she remembered the second piece of advice: get creative. She took a step back and looked at the situation from a different angle. She realized that going public might be the solution they needed to save the company. It was a risky move, but it paid off. The company was able to secure the funding they needed to keep going. However, the biggest challenge was yet to come. Samantha was struggling with her own psychology. She felt lonely and isolated, and the weight of the responsibility was overwhelming. But she remembered the third piece of advice: focus on the road ahead. She put all her energy into finding solutions, and slowly but surely, the company began to thrive. Samantha had overcome the struggle and emerged stronger than ever before. From that day on, she knew that teamwork, creativity, and a solution orientation were the keys to success. The struggle would always be there, but she was ready to face it head-on. She was a CEO, and nothing could stop her. Chapter 3. Emma, who led a fast-growing tech company that produced cutting-edge software. Emma was proud of her company and its achievements. She believed in always projecting positivity and hiding bad news from her employees, fearing that negative news would demoralize them and cause them to lose faith in the company's future. But one day, Emma's company was hit with a crisis. A new software had emerged on the market and was fast taking over their clients. The company's revenue was dropping and the management team was scrambling to find solutions. Emma was worried and anxious but continued to maintain a positive attitude and withheld the news from her employees. As weeks went by, the problem grew worse, and the employees sensed something was off. There was an air of uncertainty in the company, and the staff began to gossip about potential layoffs and salary cuts. The work environment became toxic, and the company's culture of positivity was replaced with negativity and fear. Emma realized that her positivity delusion was doing more harm than good, and it was time to come clean about the company's issues. She called an all-hands meeting and announced the crisis the company was facing. She explained the situation and the steps the management team was taking to overcome it. The employees were initially shocked and worried, but Emma's transparency helped alleviate their fears. They appreciated the honesty and felt more involved in finding solutions. Emma began to see that her employees were not fragile but strong and resilient. They came up with several innovative solutions and implemented them, which resulted in the company's turnaround. Emma realized that honesty and transparency were essential when dealing with a crisis. The earlier bad news is shared, the better it is for everyone involved. Emma learned that employees are not fragile and can handle the truth, but they need to feel valued and included in finding solutions. Chapter 4. Anna had been the CEO of a thriving tech company for years. The company had always been profitable, and Anna had always been proud of the team she had built. But things had changed. The market had shifted, and Anna's company was no longer making the profits it once had. She had to make a difficult decision. Layoffs were necessary to keep the company afloat. Anna hated the thought of laying off anyone, especially those who had been with the company for years. But she knew it had to be done, and she knew that the longer she waited, the worse it would be. So Anna gathered her team together and explained the situation. She didn't sugarcoat it. She was honest and straightforward. Yes, layoffs were necessary, and yes, they would be happening soon. Her team was understandably upset, but Anna made it clear that the layoffs would be done quickly and fairly. Those who were leaving would be given generous severance packages and good references. As Anna talked to her team, she realized something important. By admitting the company's failure, she was building trust with her team. They knew she wasn't trying to hide anything or cover anything up. She was being honest with them, and that meant a lot. The layoffs happened quickly, just as Anna had promised. It was a difficult time, but Anna made sure to be available to those who were leaving, answering any questions they had and doing what she could to ease their transition. In the end, the company emerged from the crisis stronger than ever. Yes, there had been layoffs, but the team that remained was more focused and determined than ever before. They knew that their CEO had their backs, even in the toughest of times, and that made all the difference. Chapter 5. Once upon a time, There was a tech company named Bright Tech that was going through some rough times. Its CEO, David, had hired a new executive, Alice, to turn things around. However, things didn't go as planned, and Alice's approach clashed with the company culture, resulting in low morale among the employees. David knew that he had to let Alice go, but he was hesitant because he felt responsible for her mishire. He confided in his friend and mentor, Bill, who advised him to take responsibility for the mistake and ensure continuity of the business. David took Bill's advice and called for an emergency board meeting to discuss the situation. He explained his reasons for hiring Alice and why it didn't work out. He also presented a plan to prevent similar mistakes in the future. The board appreciated his honesty and gave him their full support. Next, David prepared to talk to Alice. He knew it was going to be a tough conversation, but he was determined to handle it with grace and respect. He made sure to have a detailed severance package prepared and rehearsed his language. During the meeting with Alice, David explained that the company's culture and her approach were not a good fit. He acknowledged her efforts and thanked her for her time with the company. He also presented her with a fair severance package and assured her that he would provide a positive reference for her in the future. After Alice left, David made sure that the affected part of the business was running smoothly. He acted as a temporary replacement for Alice until a suitable replacement was found. He also took steps to boost employee morale by addressing their concerns and explaining the situation. Despite the difficult decision and the challenges that came with it, David's approach ensured continuity of the business and maintained a positive company culture. He also gained the trust of his board and employees, which helped Bright Tech turn things around and become a success once again. Chapter 6. In the bustling city of New York, there was a startup that was quickly gaining a reputation for being one of the most innovative companies around. They were called Innovation Nation, and their goal was to create a culture of innovation within the company by taking care of their people first. The founder and CEO of Innovation Nation, Lily, knew that building a great organization required taking care of the people who worked for her. She understood that they were the key to the company's success and that training and support were essential to help them reach their full potential. Lily had built a dependable HR department that worked tirelessly to ensure that the employees were happy, productive, and well compensated. The HR team was constantly looking for ways to improve the company's policies and procedures, and to ensure that every employee had a clear path to success. Innovation Nation invested heavily in training their staff, providing functional training that gave employees the experience and skills necessary to excel in their roles. They also provided management training to their managers to ensure that they knew how to train and support their own teams effectively. The company had a rigorous hiring process that focused on hiring people for their strengths rather than rejecting them for their weaknesses. Lily knew that every employee had unique strengths and abilities that could help the company achieve its goals. She believed that by hiring people based on their strengths, the company could create a more diverse and dynamic team that would be better equipped to handle any challenges that came their way. One day, Lily realized that she had made a mistake in hiring one of the company's executives. This executive was struggling to keep up with the fast-paced environment at Innovation Nation, and his performance was suffering as a result. Lily knew that she had to take action, but she also knew that firing an executive was not an easy task. She followed her own advice and took responsibility for the mishire, explaining to the board that she had made a mistake in the hiring process. She then prepared thoroughly for the conversation with the executive, ensuring that she used the right language and formulated a fair severance package. Despite the difficult decision to let the executive go, Lily made sure that he was treated fairly and respectfully, just as she would have wanted for herself. She knew that by doing so, she would maintain a sense of continuity in the business, despite the executive's departure. Thanks to Lily's commitment to taking care of her people, Innovation Nation continued to thrive. The employees were happy, productive, and dedicated to the company's mission. They knew that they were valued and supported, and that their success was the company's success. Chapter 7. Emily, who had a passion for creating a company where people were happy to work. She knew that building a great company meant curbing corporate politics, designing a unique culture, and valuing every employee's role. Emily was determined to build a company where everyone was ambitious for the entire company's success, not just their own careers. She believed in hiring people who were focused on the big picture and were willing to put in the hard work to achieve their goals. She also implemented strict processes to ensure regular performance evaluations, compensation scales, and promotion schedules, which made it difficult for anyone to get an undeserved promotion. Emily wanted to distinguish her company's culture from her competitors, just like Amazon did by getting its employees to work at desks made out of old doors. She brainstormed and came up with a unique idea. Every employee would have a fun day every month, where they could take a break from work and participate in fun activities like painting, cooking, or playing games. This made the employees feel valued and appreciated, and they were eager to come to work every day. Emily believed that every employee's role was crucial to the company's success, and she communicated this clearly through a well-defined hierarchy of titles. However, she also made sure to avoid the law of crappy people, which could lead to undervaluation and demotivation. As Emily's company grew, she realized that being a CEO was a highly demanding role that required finding the right direction for the company and articulating that vision to get everyone on board. She knew that to succeed, she had to be authentic, motivational, and able to execute her vision. She looked up to great technology company leaders like Steve Jobs, Bill Campbell, and Andy Grove, who exemplified these traits. Emily worked hard to lead her company in the right direction, and her employees followed her with enthusiasm. They were invested in the company's success, and the fun days helped build a strong team spirit. Emily's company became known as a great place to work, and people were eager to join the team. In the end, Emily's company thrived, and she was proud to have built a place where people were happy to work. She knew that it was possible to create a successful company without resorting to politics and instead focusing on valuing every employee's role, building a unique culture, and staying true to her vision. Chapter 8. Once upon a time, there was a company called Tech Pro, which was founded by two CEOs, Alex and Sarah. Alex was a one who loved to research and strategize for the company's long-term vision. He enjoyed making important decisions and playing the strategic game of chess against competitors. On the other hand, Sarah was a two who preferred execution and performance management over research and planning. She enjoyed training, performance management, process design, and goal setting. As the company grew, Alex struggled to keep up with the actual execution of his plans, which resulted in a disorganized and chaotic company. Meanwhile, Sarah's reluctance to make big decisions resulted in the company wavering when it came to important strategic shifts, slowing down the progress. Realizing that they needed to combine the characteristics of both ones and twos, Alex and Sarah brought in a functional one, Tom, who acted as a planner in his area of expertise, which was sales. This allowed the company to focus on execution while still making important decisions regarding the company's long-term vision. As Tech Pro continued to grow, they faced different circumstances, sometimes being in a peacetime era and sometimes in a wartime era. During peacetime, the company already had an advantage over competitors in its target market, and the market was growing. In this phase, Alex, Sarah, and Tom focused on enhancing their advantage further and encouraged creativity among their employees. But during wartime, the game changed completely. Tech Pro faced macroeconomic shifts, new competitor threats, and changes in the technology landscape that threatened the very survival of the company. This was when the wartime CEO, Sarah, had to step up and make tough decisions to save the company. Sarah remembered the example of Andy Grove, who was the CEO of Intel in the 1980s when the company came under attack by Japanese semiconductor companies with superior products. Grove made the tough decision to change the company's direction and go into microprocessing instead of memory products, which turned out to be hugely successful. Drawing inspiration from Grove, Sarah made the tough decision to pivot the company's focus to a new product line that would address the new competitor threats and changes in the technology landscape. Her decision saved the company and put them back on the path to success. In the end, TechPro's success was due to the combination of different leadership styles and the ability to adapt to different circumstances, whether in peacetime or wartime. Alex, Sarah, and Tom continued to work on their skills outside their comfort zone to arrive at the perfect combination, and the company continued to thrive in the ever-changing business world.